Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, we're making this diamond shaped box, which is based on a jewellery gifting box, which I saw on Pinterest. So very simple concept. We have a secured flap here, which I've used hook and loop, and then the box just pulls apart like so. And then obviously inside you can fill with your sweet treats, a bag of sweets maybe, or indeed another smaller box. This box I've made, so it's 1.5 inches deep, but obviously you can change the depth of the box very easily. At the widest point, the piece is 4 inches and it's 4 inches high. So without further ado, let's put the project together. For the box the same size as mine, you'll start with 2 pieces for the front and the back of the box, and these will be 4 inches square. Along the top edge of the 4-inch piece, make a pencil mark at 1 inch, 2 inches and 3 inches. Rotate the piece 90 degrees clockwise, so the 3 pencil marks will be over here on the right hand side, and make a pencil mark at 3 inches. Rotate the piece again 90 degrees clockwise. Your pencil marks are now at the bottom and on the right hand side, and make a pencil mark at 2 inches, and then rotate it again and you'll make a pencil mark at 1 inch. And then with your scissors or a trimmer, or you may want to draw in the pencil lines first to give you an indication of the cut lines, we're going to cut between the top pencil mark here down to the pencil mark on the left hand side, from the pencil mark on the left hand side down to the left hand pencil mark along the bottom, and then we're going to cut from the top pencil mark down to the pencil mark on the right hand side, and then from that pencil mark down to the right hand pencil mark on the bottom, and that will give you a shape which looks like this. So if I lay that on the top, you can see how that fits in with the pencil marks that we've made. So if you do that twice, that'll give you your front and back. Before we do anything else, if it's your intention to put pattern paper on the front, on the back of the piece, I would recommend that on some scrap paper, you draw around this, use it as a template and cut it out. And that will give you something which looks like this. So this is a full size template of this. If you like a 1/8 of an inch border, bring your scoreboard back in and place each side up against the left hand edge of your scoreboard, and using your pencil, run your pencil down the 1/8 of an inch track. So my pencil mark is 1/8 of an inch away from the outer edge, and I'll do that on all of the sides. Then if you cut away along the pencil mark, that will give you a template which you can then use later when you come to decorate your piece. So this will be cut in half and slightly adjusted, but if you trim around, that will give you a 1/8 of an inch border on the sides away from the outer edge of the cardstock. So for instance, that will sit on the top like so. So put this to one side and we can come back to that later, and we'll now continue with making the sides for the box. Now before we make the sides, the first thing you want to do is just lay your front and your back template on top of one another and make sure that they are exactly the same. And then you want to measure the sides of the piece to make sure that they run in line with the length of the strips that I'm going to give you now. This bottom measurement along here should be 2 inches. This measurement, mine is 1 3/8 plus 1/16, these two sides here. And then this measurement along the long side is 3 5/8. So those are the measurements that I'm going to work on to give you the 3 pieces of cardstock which are going to make up the sides of the box. Once you've measured your side pieces, you know they're both the same size and you've measured them, take your trimmer, or you might want to use a craft knife and ruler, or mark it with a pencil and go in with your scissors. But we're going to cut from this pencil mark, which was halfway across the bottom at 1 inch is here, down to the point. So we're going to split each piece in half. Line the pencil mark up and so that is going to be the front, and then I'll do the same here, and then that will be the back. My box is 1.5 inches wide, therefore the first piece, which is going to run along the base, is 2 inches by 2.5 inches. So that's my 1.5 inch width for my box, plus a 1/2 inch glue tab for the left and a 1/2 inch glue tab for the right. So along the 2.5 inch side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch and 2 inches. I'm going to rotate to the short side and score at 1 inch. So that's our base piece. For the left hand side, the piece will be 5.5 plus a 1/16 times 2.5. Along the 2.5 inch side, score at 1/2 and 2. And on the long side, score at 1/2 inch, rotate 180 degrees. That 1/2 inch score line is now over on the right, and score at 3 5/8. For the right hand side, the piece will be 6.5 plus a 1/16 times 2.5 inches. Along the 2.5 inch side, score at 1/2 and 2, and on the long side, score at 1/2. Rotate 180 degrees, our 1/2 inch score line is over on the right, and score at 4 5/8 of an inch. So that's the right hand side, the left hand side, and the base. Now we will be adding another score line into this section, but we will do it once we start to put the box together, because this side piece has got to come over a very sharp point. So we've got an inch leeway to get over, create a nice crisp look to the top, and then go over the top of this left hand side piece. So we're going to put that score line in later once we can see how the pieces come together. So now your sides are all prepared, we'll start by folding and burnishing along all of the score lines. So we'll start with our base, which is the piece, the smallest piece. And on each of the pieces, we're fundamentally going to work the same process. So we'll cut up any score lines which are within the 1/2 inch side section, like so. And then we'll take a wedge from the end of those. This is just creating our glue tab. That's the base piece. And take the left hand piece, which will be the next shortest piece. And again, we're going to cut up any of the score lines within the 1/2 inch side section. Do the same at the bottom 1/2 inch. So we'll be removing the left and right hand squares like so. And then we're going to take a wedge from each of these glue tabs. So there'll be one to join the two pieces together, and then we will repeat this process on the longest piece, which is for the right hand side. So we can now start to bring our pieces in. The key thing is you need to make sure that when you add these front or back pieces on, they will obviously line up like so, and it will form its whole shape that we had at the beginning. But you want to make sure that the edge, the inside edge here or here, is lined up with this center score line, because this is the hinge that's going to make the box fold backwards, open like so. So this piece, if you imagine the front and the back are adhered here and here, this is effectively going to move in this direction so that the box opens. So we'll stick this one on here, and this one on here. And if we just test those, we can see that's how they come together, and they are sitting on the hinge. So then we'll take our left hand piece. So this is the front. So this is going to come up on this side. So I'm going to adhere this glue tab onto this piece here, and then add these two tabs in exactly the same way. So that's that section added on. I'm going to turn this around and I need to change the shape of the end of this glue tab. So I'm just going to cut away so that that is now lined up and flush. So I'm going to cut that one at an angle as well. So that's the left hand side done. So we're now going to put the right hand side on. So I'm going to start by adding on the strip and joining the strip on to the base strip. So that will be this section here. Make sure that's all lined up. Make sure that your long score lines are lined up. Add in the second section. Now we're going to work on this right hand side and the element that's going to go across the top of the box, because obviously I want to make sure this goes at a nice point over the top, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to bring the glue tab around and sit the glue tab in place as if it were stuck in place. Take my pencil and I'm going to mark just beyond the very tip of this side section. Now I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut down to the pencil mark on this side, and then I'm going to cut along as we did on the first piece to make sure that my glue tab is the right shape. So that side is now as it should be. I'm going to pull this piece away, and then using my stylus and ruler, I can lay my piece out like this on my mat, line my ruler up, make sure my ruler's parallel, and I'm going to add in my score line now. So that's my score line. So this is what's going to come across the top for my closure. That will sit on that side like so, and this closure is going to come over the top, and we've got a nice sharp point on the top of the piece. I'm going to remove this additional section on the left hand side like so, and cut that away, and then I can shape the end of this section when I come to put the back on. So we'll glue the remainder of the right hand side in place. Make sure you stick the point down so that still meets nicely on the front like so. And now we can add on our two back pieces. So that one is going to sit on there, and this one is going to sit on there. So that's that side. And now what I'm going to do is lay this one on, make sure this one's lined up. Just going to go in with a pencil and mark the shape of the door top. I can cut this piece of the glue tab away before I stick that down. So that's how the piece comes together, and we've got a nice crisp closure over the top. So we can now add on our pattern paper and our decoration. So this is our template minus the 1/8 of an inch on all the way round, and I've marked across the bottom with a pencil. I'm going to cut this in half as we did the first pieces. So that is going to sit on there like so, but we need to now reduce the measurement on this long side. So I'm going to bring back in my scoreboard, line the piece up, mark with my pencil as we did on all the other edges, 1/8 of an inch. I trim that away so you can see that is the template for the pattern paper, which is going to sit on there like so. And obviously before you cut this out of your pattern paper, you can adjust any of the angles as you so wish. So I'm going to get on with adding my pattern paper, and then I'll come back and give you the measurements for the side pieces. Here's the finished piece. You can see I've added the pattern paper onto all of the sides. I used the template for the front and the back. For the sides, I've got two pieces which were 1 1/4 wide by 3 3/8 for the two long sides. These two pieces here were 1 1/4 times 1 1/4, and then the tab here is 1 1/4 times 3/4, and I've just used a hook and loop to secure that down. I've added a simple sentiment to the front, and then you can see the box opens like so you could put another box inside this if you wanted, or a bag of treats, or however you want to fill the box. So there we have today's project. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.